a short introduction when you're seating yourselves back after tea. Those who want to argue can sit on the left. Those who want to basically stand for polar opposite perspectives to what I'm talking about can sit in the right. Yeah, my left. So either if you want to argue, please sit here. If you want to just point out opposite perspectives, please sit here. No, just if you want to argue, because I'll be asking questions.
As an attitude. So if you sit here, it is that you choose to argue, your responses have to be argumentative.
Yeah.
And if you sit on this side, which is to not argue, but responding
to opposite perspectives.
to opposite perspectives, please sit on this side, and that will be the location from which you will respond.
Do you mean that we offer opposite perspectives, or we?
You only have two choices. You can either offer opposite perspectives or you can argue.
Yeah, I just want to clarify that we are not offering opposite.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you do have to make a choice for all of those who are waffling in between. Okay? Vikram?
There are fewer people here.
Vishal?
Yeah, I'm getting it.
And then which side will you sit on?
What happens if I walk up on the stage?
You can do both. You can argue and
And Anita's on the steps, so what happens to Anita?
So I think that's on this side, so you have to argue. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm presenting some ideas for self-staging, where the stage and the propping up mechanisms are the self itself. I'm going to talk about three words: non-distinction, sedimentation, and abrasion. And after speaking about each word, I'll ask you three questions, and that's when you can choose to respond by either arguing or proposing an opposite perspective. So, what is the idea of non-distinction? The idea starts, I'll introduce the idea with an analogy. So, if you look at the night sky, you see many stars, yeah, you see some satellites, some planets, all of this. But so the idea of non-distinction says that the idea of each body you see, each celestial object you see, is equal to its own luminance, its own value, divided by the total number of objects in the sky. So which means that you cannot stand by yourself, you do not have any isolated bearing. You only have as much value as the field has. There is no way to separate yourself from the field and set yourself apart. So the idea of distinction and actually it's how most of our efforts go towards in trying to make our living and so on and so forth. But the idea of distinction is that there's something so special about us that sets us apart from rest of everyone in the field. And that idea of something so special is that which gives us value. But non-distinction actually opposes that idea by saying that, and it's related to the staging of the self, which is that you can only prop yourself up if you're propping up the field. You cannot. So essentially it's talking about a kind of transaction, a kind of collaborative transaction that you have with the field, And if you do not have that, individually you do not have anything. And why is this contrarian idea? So what is the logic? What is the rationale for saying this? So the rationale for saying this is this. So to be part of the field, no qualifications are needed. So anyone practicing, no matter what the qualitative barometer of the practice, is part of the field. There are no arguments about that. But to be distinctive, you have to qualify the distinction. And that has barriers of entry. And if you have barriers of entry, you will need to have gatekeepers. And so the idea of non-distinction is related to the desire to be a self-regulated kind of mass, which can by itself decide how to place oneself. And if one is to do that, then one needs to give up the idea that one can actually rise above. And the second thing is, by giving up the idea of actually being special, we are forced to actually understand who we might be. So self-knowledge in that sense becomes something we have to gain. And how do you know whether you know yourself? You know that you know yourself if you don't fit in. If you fit, you know that you don't know yourself, because it is such a kind of knowledge that if you know yourself, you know that you don't fit in. So what I'm saying is that, and this might seem a bit contradictory to the idea of non-distinction, but it is not. It just says that once you are giving up the idea that you are above the field, once you are making peace with the fact that you are part of the field and that there is no other parameter of your own self-worth, of your value, then you have to determine who you might be. And to determine that, you will invariably come to realize that what you might be doesn't really align itself with what's out there, and there might need to be a negotiation between how you're part of the field and still you're not part of anything. But you can also argue, and I'm giving this side some ideas, that is fitting in not about fitting in, and is it about a tactical change in masses? So is it about giving the appearance that you might fit in when it suits you, and otherwise being whoever you might be? So this brings us to the fact that distinction is an external parameter, and we are discarding it precisely because the field actually wants to self-regulate itself, and linking that back to the self. If the self wants to prop itself up, then it does need to give up the idea of separation and actually make peace with the idea of being part of a flat field without any kind of foregrounding and backgrounding. Because the nature of the field, the experience of the scene, is more important than the prominent display of any member of the field itself. So I have 3 questions now for you, and you can choose to respond them from the perspective. The first question is, when you witness an act do you feel the need to define it? When you witness an act, do you feel the need to define it? In the sense, do you feel the need to tell yourself what the act that you have witnessed has been? Or are you okay with, being blurred about it? We can, either have some responses, or I'll wait for a few seconds.
I think there is tendency to do this, but at the same time, when it's not happening naturally, then I let it will either come back or it will not. So you experience something, and sometimes you know what is it that you got out of it, and then you go deeper into it, and sometimes you don't know and you let it be, but there is a part of the mind that might be like that.
So it's okay for it to be delayed. It's okay for the definition to be delayed.
But there's the tendency, yes, to define it is a tendency.
Yeah, okay, so it's a tendency to define it. Are there any arguments? Okay, the second question, do you think of an act and do you think an act and how it is interpreted can be different?
Is this from Amitesh itself?
Yeah, from the perspective of the formulation of the act and the way it's interpreted, it can be different. So there seems to be agreement. So the third question is actually about what we are doing right now. So by having a formatted conversation, it leads to a richer discourse. Do you agree? So you would rather I didn't define these kind of, it's just leaving it open. Okay.
But if you were to argue about that, you said that you would.
Okay, I know there is an argument because we are already in the right.
Substantiate your
Yes, because okay. So my argument would be that there would be more space because there are too many blurred lines everywhere. So I think there is more space to sort of flesh them out and like go. Choose other than the argument or the polar opposite, thing, and just talk about or think about things, which are not any of those. That's all the argument I have.
Right.
I'm not clear exactly about what you're trying to frame, because if you're trying to frame a situation of, say, non-duality, is that what you're trying to frame as a discussion?
I think something that you can derive from non-distinction would be non-duality, but in perspective of the actor and the field. So not non-duality in terms of the viewer and the actor. So I'm not going into that. It's but the practitioner that I'm talking about, and what is the self? The self picturization of the practitioner.
Could I suggest that we need a different rhetorical frame?
Okay. Yeah, so that's coming right up because I have another word. So I'm switching to the next word. The next word is sedimentation. Now, what does sedimentation mean? It means, okay, so we are not who we are any one day, we are who we are across time. So that's a simple idea. But this comes from the fact that we are actually not lines, we are points on a graph. So across the continuum of all the time that we inhabit, we are at different points plotted on the graph in a different way. And if that is the way it is, we need to log ourselves. So one concrete way in which we can picturize ourselves for ourselves is to actually log the position of the points at which they are at different points in time. And so this is basically a kind of big data model for self-reflection, in which if you log yourself and you provide the logs, then there can be actually some conversation about who you might be and who I might be. If we don't have access to each other's logs, there actually is no frame for conversation about your perspective and mine, because I haven't even accessed your material, so, and you haven't accessed mine. So I'm saying that the first responsibility that we do have is to make our logs available, and not just the selected points. So which means that we might curate our output and just choose to make certain things public and not make other things public. But that doesn't make it possible for anyone to really know who we are. And because why I'm proposing a sedimentation based logging method is because I want to position conversation as currency. And if you're talking about currency, then obviously there has to be some scarcity involved. So if you're talking all the time, then what you're talking about can't possibly be valuable. So we don't talk all the time, and when we do talk, that is extremely valuable. And so the idea of conversation as currency comes from the relation between conversation and practice. So we can converse at the pitch of intensity we want to converse at only for a finite amount of time, and that finite limit is set by how much time we have given ourselves to render that intensity. So if we don't practice, we don't have value to exchange in conversations, and thereby we are not part of the conversation as currency, the market. So we come back to self-knowledge in the sense, in sedimentation as well. Because if we are exchanging logs, I'm saying we are exchanging logs for us to know each other. But can we really ever know each other? Can we know ourselves ever? Without going into the whole spiritual direction of, the possibility of a unique absolute self, what might self-knowledge be? So when we start the interrogation, when we start questioning who you might be, then what we encounter is the hysteria of the self-questioning. And I think even if it's not possible, so just to have this discussion in the bounds of a secular kind of framework, even if it's not possible for us to know ourselves, we need to be at least in touch with the hysteria of the act of knowing ourselves and the questions. Are you making your crafts available? Graphs. Are you making your graphs available? Graphs. Your logging of your points. And where can I view your graphs if you are? So what do you consider your graph to be in that sense? Where do you consider you are actually revealing your graph, and can I witness it?
Then do we have a notion of do we have a notion of what the axes are? Like if it's a graph, like there should be an axis.
So the axis, one axis is of time,
Yeah.
and the other axis is of a being. So, and the point actually is whatever it might be.
There are two questions here, right? One is, are you making your drafts available?
Yeah.
And the other one is about access.
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 The access are big.
There is access and access.
Yeah. Access is his question. But am I making my drafts available is one question, and am I making my drafts available to who?
Yeah.
For me, that's another question.
Yeah. Yeah. So are you making them available per se? And if yes, how can I view them?
So I can answer both questions with two different answers.
Yeah.
Yes and no.
Okay. So if you are not,
Sorry.
yeah.
I'm sitting on the north side, so I'm
Is that allowed?
But why does my graph have to be available?
So for us to have a conversation as to, not like the conversation that Vishal was talking about, not like a cross connection of telephones, where I don't know whom I'm talking to and the other side doesn't know whom they're listening to. For us to know and for us to be locate each other, we need to have the data. Otherwise, we should make peace with the idea of actually talking randomly.
Yes, but the idea of something being I mean, I find that the way you framed your question and what you have framed is a bit naive and romantic.
Yeah. I mean, it's just a big data model for self-reflection, because what are the alternatives? The alternatives are we either shoot in the dark, and we are already denying the possibility of actual knowledge of each other or self-knowledge. So if we are denying that, and if we don't want to shoot in the dark, then the pragmatic basis of what we have every day, the handle we have on our experience is the data. And that's actually the least kind of supernatural way of talking about the self.
Then is the graph valid even if you yourself scramble the information and plot it wrong?
Yeah, because that's the way you are choosing to make yourself known. So, I mean, making a graph available doesn't mean that you let me into your secrets. Making a graph available only means that what you want me to know you as, you give me evidence for.
Oh, because then you can sound a bit final. Plot yourself on the graph.
No, it's only the practice of actually plotting and logging the points at which you are at. But it doesn't insist on any kind of honesty. Yeah, so you might want to have your graph available to yourself in terms of its validity, like you're saying. But to others, you might want to have a distorted version of the graph available, because it doesn't make sense to reveal yourself to everyone.
The idea seems to be that the graph is both quantifiable and entirely legible to yourself. My graph may not be legible to myself. The data that I produce may not be legible to me.
Yeah.
And when I put it out there, it gets interpreted in X number of ways. So, are you actually suggesting that the data that you produce about yourself is quantifiable?
No, it's not quantifiable, but it's possible to, from a scattered plot of points on two axes, it's possible to develop a curve out of that. So I can, even if there is a vast variation in the position of the points, I'll have some kind of a curve. So which gives me some kind of basis to formulate my image of you. Otherwise, it's based on impressions and just.
Isn't that more fun because everyone can't access a graph?
Yeah, it might
Those
be
who can't access
fun
enough.
to actually form impressions, but
No, it's not. It's not about it being fun.
Yeah.
It's about having different ways of accessing. So maybe the data that you're presenting on a graph, maybe I can't access it, even though I'm looking at it, but I can't access it. So then what's the point of, you're just inventing yet another way of, I don't know, some sort of it's not big data for
it's
me.
just some way of having a communicable,
Yeah, if I don't know the language, then how do I access it?
yeah. So then you're forced to interpret, or
But that you do similarly in other formats as well. You're forced
Yeah.
to interpret that.
So the question is, can you ever make yourself, can you ever fully hide your graph? Or are you plotting it all along anyway, in the way that you're dressing up? My question is, can you ever hide your graph?
so for the version of reality we live in, if we are meeting each other every day and if we are kind of talking to each other every day, whatever, then the graph, the data is already there. But for connections to be formed in the cloud outside the immediate circle I inhabit,
Put something out there.
yeah. So how will someone living in some X location get an idea of who you might be in Delhi and want to connect? So
It's a voluntary exercise. This plotting
yeah, it's a voluntary exercise in order to offer some milestones, some navigation, some directionality in the mass of consciousness out there.
These tend to be purposive exercises.
Or critical.
Or critical exercises.
Because it's kind of, sorry, because it's because it kind of seems that it's an algorithmic critique of how we're using data on the web. So are you being sarcastic or not?
I mean, I think I have a similar question. Is this a performance or is this ideology?
So I'll move to the next word, which is abrasion. So how would it be if you were to use language as if the potential to understand each other was still alive? So if for a moment we drop the kind of sarcasm and cynicism that language that we are never able to get through, and language actually has the ability of making an impression, what could happen? So I'm talking about weaponizing language. So weapons get through. So when you shoot me or try to shoot me, even if you don't know me, I'll die. So if language has weapons, then irrespective of my capacity to understand, my interpretation, my filter, and my whatever, I'll still understand. So a curse is actually, it's a weapon. A curse is a weapon. So it's a form of weaponized language. And a curse tells us many things about when we use it. It tells us, okay, what exactly hurts you. If I curse you, I know what hurts you. I understand what makes you defensive. So it's a switch. It's like being invited but then ignored. So this word is abrasion. Abrasion is a kind of friction, and I'm talking about how language needs to meaning and mindless drudgery. You will become a car with no driver. May you miss all deadlines. May you find no affection, be dry as a bone. May you become a surveyor of trends. May all your friends be in awe of you. May you have money for everything but drift in the landscape. May you be the darling of legends. May you draw a blank. May you lust for glory. So the first question is, what does your voice feel like? If I want to know what your voice feels like, will you have the tools to let me know what your voice feels like?
Like voice here is like voice, the literal
Voice.
Your voice, but your voice as you and not just your sonic and output.
Oh, your voice.
Okay.
Not sure how one can argue with that.
So yeah, you can't argue with that, but you can argue with the perspective whether you have the tools to make me know your voice, or whether it's even possible for your voice to be actually known by someone else. Or is maybe a curse a way to, if you curse me, will I know what your voice feels like? Or can be any other, yeah.
I just have another question. Am I on the right side or wrong side? I really don't know. But I just have a question. Then how come it will be my organic voice? There will be echoes of other things. They might be filters or they might be obstacles, I don't know. Which will be my voice purely, which I will be like, I'll be able to communicate to you, or I'll make you feel that this is my voice. But I feel there will be echoes of other voices, maybe like smaller frequencies, I don't know, even in your voice and my voice.
Yeah, but the task at hand is to weaponize language.
Yeah.
So that you can tune your frequencies that you emit, so that I can,
Make it sharper.
yeah, so being sharper in that sense. So when we are weaponizing language, we are actually developing sharp aspects of language which are still able to communicate.
So it's not my weapon.
So it is your weapon, the way you have developed it. If I'm able to understand what you say, your weapons have been well developed and well deployed. Does external abrasion help in internal self-questioning? Does external abrasion help internal self-questioning? So if I curse you every day, will I help you in knowing yourself?
Depends on where the person is in his life. Like, where in that graph you were talking about, where that person is in their life. I mean, if they're used to it, or they have already, if somebody is not mature enough, maybe if somebody has attained that sort of maturity and wisdom,
So, what conditions are you talking about?
So I'm talking about essentially abrasive conditions,
No, I meant generally, with the three questions, with the three,
words.
yeah.
So with the three words I'm talking, okay, so first I'm talking about not plotting oneself on the tangent of stardom. So I don't need to necessarily be a star for you to be, not in the night sky at all. So I mean, so there is the individual pursuit of setting oneself apart, and I'm questioning whether that's useful in terms of the field activity. That's the scenario for the first one. Sedimentation is more, it's in the context of people being able to access each other and access the ideas of who they might be in an openly communicable form. And abrasion is in visualizing, imagining a scenario where we are actually able to get through. Because we are not able to get through, we have, in that sense, lost our faith in language, and we have made peace with the idea that, okay, it's all right to not get through. But actually, we don't need to do that. We just need to sharpen our weapons and, in that sense, weaponize language. So curse is one weapon which I think is a weapon. You might think something else is a weapon. But it needs to be part of what we talk about. What is a weapon and what is not. And in the sense, because we still have to value the possibility of getting through. We cannot give up that possibility. We cannot say that we cannot live in the kind of cloud that everyone will make their own meaning, and that's fine. Because
why can't we live in that cloud of everyone can make their own meaning? Because isn't that what happens anyway?
so currently, in the sense, yeah, so that might be what's happening. So we might be living in that cloud, but can't continue to live in that cloud because there is something that we're communicating in the first place per se. So, and if we are saying that, if we're negating that, if we are saying that everyone is always going to make their own meaning out of, no matter what I say, that means we are saying that our communication can always be so loose so as to not get through. And not getting through cannot be, so it's, yeah, it's just like, so it's like making peace with a gun that never hits its mark. So we can't actually do that in order to have a faith in language. And we need to have faith in language because we use it every day and we use it with the intention of getting through while not getting through. And we are okay with that. And that is a kind of conundrum which I don't think we should be okay with.
But there are different kinds of languages. So language that uses text has a kind of intention where I want you to get exactly what I want you to get. There are other kinds of languages where I don't want you to get exactly what I will do. There's a certain kind of essence that I am producing for us to, for you to experience.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering whether where that fits in this grid that you're proposing.
Yeah, so I'm not actually talking about exactitude. I'm actually talking about communicability. So you might not want to communicate a precisely reduced, a mantra to me, and that's fine. But whatever it is that you want to communicate to me, if I am always getting something in some variation of noise, something random.
What if I want you to get a variation of noise? What if that's my intention?
So then your mission is already accomplished. So then there is no problem statement. So what I'm talking about is for the scenario where you do actually want to communicate something, even if it is with a variation or a range of variation, but you want that range to be perceived that way.
But isn't it what is the situation in which one doesn't want to communicate with exactitude? Which is not to say, I'm asking this because I find it.
You're arguing within the argument.
I don't know. I'm not even arguing. No, this is the argument.
This is the argument. Oh, we can also intra-arguments.
Because I'm wondering about communication as. So there's communication, then there's being precise, and I'm just trying to think of taking off what you were saying. When does one not want to be precise? Because in any case there is always translation, and so it's never precise sometimes in the hearing, or it will, whatever I say to you like this in any case, right? It will, it translates for you in who you are in a number of ways. But wouldn't my intention be to be precise?
Even if I don't want to be precise.
I'm just wondering, when does one not want to be precise?
I think that situation could occur if you're in fear. If you're in a situation where you're in fear of what the outcome of what you say is. Sometimes it would be like I'm unconscious, a decision not to be precise, but at times it could even be like you're feeling the terrain out. I don't know.
Well, I mean, I'm also sort of trying to think about the conversations today, and how does one, a lot of this afternoon has been about a relationship with someone, and it's been articulated in a number of ways, and it's been tried to, I think everybody's tried to perform it in a number of ways. And I'm just wondering, in that scheme of things, of somebody saying something and somebody listening, when does one not want to be precise?
With the intention of not being precise. Like if I want to particularly confuse you and not make you want to land on something particular. I think that's a valid enough intention, and I feel like it's an intention.
But being precise is so subjective. If you read the work and you're reading of it, you think you're being precise, you're making it. I'm not, if that's not where the work lies, essentially, then perhaps not,
I think all speech has kind of collateral corollary.
Yes.
And so especially weaponized speech will have collateral damage. It need not be precise. When you weaponize speech, it need not be precise. I think it hurts precisely because it hurts despite not necessarily being precise. In some way, it fixes you in its plenitude, the plenitude of vitriol.
But you have to ask Prayas if the weapons is working out.
I mean, I'm thinking of acid rain.
Sorry?
I'm thinking of acid rain. Or,
I mean, in talking about weaponizing language, one is talking about listening as well as speaking. So, and actually the way the three words knit into each other, if we are, for example, making our material available, then it's possible for me as a listener to tune into your range if I want to understand you. If I don't want to understand you in the first place, I don't need to tune into your range. But your range is what you're making available as a graph. So if you want to be understood, you're making yourself available. If you don't want to be understood, you're not taking the trouble to make your range available in the first place. So I think it's about the intentions, like you're saying. Where does one not want to be sharp? It also depends on the listener and the kind of contract between the listener and the performer, in the sense that do we want to communicate with each other or not? If they do, then they have it cut out for them about how to do it. If they don't, then it's fine.
What happens when the frame with which you're listening is mistakes or forceful or I don't know, you know what I'm talking about?
But I think that there's always this gap. Sorry, there's always this gap between intention and reception, and those gaps are always going to be there. I think what he's trying to clarify is that space of weaponization needs to be there, in spite of whatever the reception might be, in spite of whatever gaps you encounter. And I think that gray space, which I mean.
Yeah, I mean, out of 100 things that we say to each other every day, needs to be at least one time that we are able to, that we can reserve for being able to get through. And that is what the weaponization of language means, that when I want to, I should be really able to get through, breaking through the interpretation and intention, duality and all of that. So, I think, yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Prayas.